This episode is sponsored by the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. August's featured entertainment includes Low Cash on the 2nd, Dogstar on the 9th, and Fortune Feimster on the 10th. Details and tickets on HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Today marks what would have been the 100th birthday of influential author and activist James Baldwin. I spoke with actress KiKi Layne, current star of the indie film Dandelion, when she starred in the 2018 film adaptation of Baldwin's 1974 novel If Beale Street Could Talk, directed by Barry Jenkins. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a real big treat. I just saw it earlier this week and really enjoyed it. So clearly, I mean, obviously, you know, Barry Jenkins, fresh off Best Picture for Moonlight, which we all loved and blew us away. So everyone's looking forward to see what he's going to do next. And all of a sudden, oh my God, you're suddenly starring in the follow-up. So it's really anticipated, but I think you guys definitely lived up to that high bar. But just before we go into this, just take me into that though. Like, when did you see Moonlight and become aware of Barry to begin with? And then we'll go into the casting on this.
I saw Moonlight when it hit theaters in Chicago. Ashton Sanders is actually a friend of mine, so I definitely was like, okay, I gotta go support Ashton. And I was just blown away. I remember, the credits rolling and just sitting there, me and my friend, like, what did we just see? That is something unlike anything we've ever seen before. And so then hearing that this was his follow-up, I mean, Barry Jenkins and James Baldwin, I knew this was going to be something, extremely, extremely special. And so when the opportunity came around to audition, I knew I had to try.
What's that reaction when you finally get that call saying, we're going with you in this role? You're going to be the lead.
I tried to stay as calm as possible because Barry called me himself. So I didn't want to get too crazy. So I was just trying to, rush him off the phone so I could lose it.
It's awesome. Well, I mean, you did a great job. And my favorite scene in the whole thing is when you and Stephan James, when you guys go look at the empty apartment. Yeah. And you're not really seeing the potential, but he's trying to sell it, and he's moving the refrigerator around, and Barry's camera's swooping and looking, and you can almost visualize what that apartment's going to be the way that you shoot that. But take me into shooting that scene and how you actually, on your face, you're as the actress, you have to portray, you're looking around a little skeptical, and then slowly you melt because it's such an adorable presentation. He wins you over.
No, I mean, it was, I don't know, that was a fun day on set because Dave Franco was also just really cool, and I think we were just having a good time just playing with each other. Barry creates such a great environment for, all the artists that are a part of it to just feel comfortable being open, playing, giving and receiving. And so that scene is definitely, one of those moments where you just see us, having fun.
Was that in the book, or was that more done for the script purposes, or you guys just kind of
no, us being showed the apartment and everything, that's definitely in the book. But then, Barry, and James created something special to take that moment even further.
I just love it. Were you familiar with the book? Had you read it, or?
I didn't get to read the book until before my chemistry read. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure this is the first narrative adaptation of a Baldwin book, because obviously I Am Not Your Negro was a great documentary.
Right.
I think it's an all-timer. Even underrated as acclaimed as it was, I think it's an all-timer. But in terms of being the first to bring it into a fiction film, even though it's based on a real thing, what is the magic of James Baldwin, and what are you guys trying to go for in terms of, I mean, it's really commenting about, they say they got you by the balls, and people have to do plea deals, and, what's sort of that, what do you want people to take away from that in terms of that social commentary?
I mean that the things that James Baldwin was talking about and writing in the 70s is still very present today and are still things that we are dealing with and needing to have conversations about today. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Beale Street is that, you know, there is this commentary on those very, very real issues. But at the core of it, what James did here is he wrote this really, really beautiful love story, you know, which speaks to, regardless of what we may be dealing with, you know, love is the thing. There's strength and there's power in that, you know, to deal with all of those same injustices.
That's what I love about it, because it's, yes, on a macro level, it's, you know, about mass incarceration and, you know, racism and all these giant themes. But like you're saying, it's when you're watching and it doesn't, it's not like it's hitting you over the head. It's like you're just so involved in these characters. You're so wrapped up in the deeply human connections between them, which I thought was masterfully done by you guys. Dish on your co-star there, Stephan James. We talked to him. He came here for the Jesse Owens movie, I think. It was a great interview. But you're giving him a run for his money. We'll see how it ends. But no, just dote on him a little bit. Make him blush. If he's going to watch this, you know, why is he so great to work with?
No, Steph, he's just so, like, he has this really great confidence about him that was really, really nice for me to tap into, because I'm coming in a little unsure of myself. I'm like, what am I doing on this set? What does he mean setting up the shot like this? What is this? But Steph really encouraged me, you know, to take ownership of my place on that set, my place in the film, and I'm so, so thankful for that. And he also was just really fun to work with and really, I don't know, just patient and respectful of me being on this learning journey. So I'm so thankful for that.
Not to mention your mom, Regina King. Come on, a legend. I mean, Jerry Maguire. I'm not going to list them all.
I didn't list, right.
Yeah, it goes on and on. But, man, to have her, and some of those scenes, like especially when she goes down
Puerto
to
Rico.
the victim and tries to convince her, and she, you know, basically gets yelled in her face and has that breakdown moment. But what do you, like, from actress to actress, like, what are you watching, little things, little choices she's making? Like, is there anything you can give insight on that, acting choice-wise?
I mean, she's just so natural. You know, you can just tell she's someone that really just receives everything so beautifully. Like watching this, everything that she was doing in Puerto Rico, like that's what I was taking away. I'm like, I'm watching someone who really knows how to receive and listen and be affected in the moment by what her partners are giving her.
Yeah. And in terms of working with Barry Jenkins, man, some of those shots, he's a genius. Yeah. Some of those shots, like when we're circling Stephan
as he's sculpting,
and the smoke's flying.
Yeah.
Or my favorite shot is, I'm going to talk to Barry when I'm going to ask him about it, but we see a birth from the point of view of the baby almost coming out of the tub up into the arms.
Yep.
It's just blowing me away. I mean, the guy's like developing his own cinematic language here. I love it. But in terms of working with him as, you know, how he works with actors, like shed a little light on what his skill is with that. Like, what's his little approach with you guys?
I mean, I think he recognizes that we all need different things, you know, and he takes the time to understand that there's a certain way that I, you know, need to receive direction versus how Stephan or Regina needs to receive direction. And I think that's, you know, what allows any artists that are working with him to really shine, because he, you know, understands how to talk to us and also just has so much patience on the set. Like, I'm so thankful that this was my first experience. You know, I'm learning so much. And so to have so many people around me that are understanding to that, you know, really made this such a great experience.
Absolutely. And final question, we're getting to go home. But in closing, tell us a little more about you. Where'd you come up? You know, high school theater, or what? You know, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that's where I started, you know, getting involved in the arts. I went to the School for Creative and Performing Arts there, and then I just kept studying acting at DePaul in Chicago. And yeah, I've just been doing it for a very long time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks for carrying on your shoulders this awesome movie. You know, you're like, how's it going to live up to Moonlight? And it does. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also spoke with the film's director, Barry Jenkins, who was featured in a past episode of Beyond the Fame, but we'll bring it back again today to celebrate the James Baldwin centennial. After Moonlight, it's like, what's he going to do next? How's he going to reach that high bar? But you did. You did. So
thanks,
congrats right off the bat.
Thank you.
Everyone's looking forward to seeing what you're doing next. Why was this one? You got to be selective what that next one's going to be, coming off Best Picture. Why this?
No, I didn't think of it that way, that you had to be selective coming off of Best Picture. You know, I wrote this script at the same time that I wrote the script for for Moonlight in the summer of 2013. I didn't have the rights. I wrote the script before having the rights to the book. And then over the process of making Moonlight, got the rights from the estate. And it was actually really nice when all the Oscars and awards season stuff started to really just know what the next piece was going to be, even before all the madness at the Oscars. And then when the madness at the Oscars did happen, again, it was even nicer to know that there wasn't going to be this pressure or expectation. I already knew what I was going to do next. And it was this film, which I consider a companion piece to the previous film.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I like when directors do that. I mean, a little B-side, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
But, when did you encounter the Baldwin book? Because I'm pretty sure this is the first narrative adaptation of the book. We saw, the documentary I Am Not Your Negro, which to me is an all-timer. But for this, when did you actually read the book?
I read the book for the first time in 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. A friend sent it to me and asked me if I had read it, because everybody knew I was a big fan of Baldwin's work, but I actually hadn't read this one. And I read it, and I was just really surprised at how romantic it was, how lush this sort of like love between these two characters are. They're essentially soulmates, but then still how James Baldwin, through his cultural critique, his views on society, still managed to make this very, I think, persuasive argument about the brokenness of the American justice system.
Yeah, I like how it works on multiple levels, because in the macro, you get the social commentary, you get the mass incarceration and the justice system that you're talking about, but it's not like overpowering you while you're watching it, because you're so into the human story here.
Yeah.
This is a great, great love story. My favorite scene on that front is when they're looking at the new apartment. That's my favorite. That's my favorite scene in the whole movie. Explain shooting that scene and your idea of how your camera just is swooping around, and you almost start imagining the fridge and the table. And,
exactly.
And the way.
The idea was, again, it's a very faithful adaptation, and so that scene is in the book somewhat, but I was shocked that one, in as recently as 74, which is close enough or far enough away, that Soho wasn't the Soho we know today, and that a guy who works a job as a short order cook could actually afford a loft in Soho. So I told my location scout, I need to see a place that's like this, because I don't believe it, that it ever existed. And he found one. And, the landlord was, this Jewish guy who we modeled Dave Franco's character off of. And then the loft itself, as we were going around it, I just thought, this doesn't make any sense. You can't make this into a home. And then it clicked. It's like, oh, well, what's like a testament to love and faith in love than someone promising you something that is impossible and you going, okay, I believe you. And so once we clicked on that, I rewrote the scene to reflect this thing where they're pretending to grab the fridge and all that stuff. And Dave's character, Dave Franco's character, Levy, the landlord, is in the book, but even then it wasn't enough. I was trying to find some connective tissue between he and Fonny, and this idea of mothers just came to me. And that was when we added the line where Fonny's like, yo, Mr. White Man, why the hell are you giving me this loft? We've been looking for all this time, and nobody's going to sell a loft out here to two Negroes, he says. And I thought, everybody has a mother. And so the line...
I'm just my mother's son, right?
Yes, that's the only thing that makes a difference between us and them. And you think the us and them is black and white, but really it's people who've been loved and been nurtured, and therefore they have a very open heart, and people who maybe haven't had that opportunity, and so they have a very closed heart. So one of those nice things that just happens between location scouting and working with actors.
I think it's like the line of the movie. I mean, it sums it all up. Plus, since she's an expectant mother, too, I mean, it gives them the groundwork for
see?
He's always working. Speaking of childbirth, my favorite shot from a directing level is, you know what I'm going to say, by a POV almost from a childbirth perspective. We shoot out of the water in the bath right into the arms there. How was that achieved?
It was like, I used to go to SeaWorld as a kid, and I always liked how the things came through the water. No, I'm joking.
I was going to say that. The most ridiculous explanation for one of the coolest shots in a movie.
No, I'm messing with you. No, it was something else that happened in the process of location scouting and working on the script. I don't know why, but myself and the cinematographer were talking about this idea of how to end the film, because the language in the end of the book is very soft. It's not like concrete imagery at the end. And I don't know why, but I just saw, because this woman's carrying this child the entire film, just this, I wanted to be a part of the birth, without all the messiness.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. Right.
So it's a very elevated kind of depiction, and not documentary kind of depiction of a birth, but because of all the things these characters are carrying over the course of the film, it felt like something that visually spectacular was earned at that point. And yeah, it's something that, I think for women who see the film in particular, even though it's not a documentarian's depiction of a childbirth, something about it really moves them. And whose arms would you want to come into, as your first breaths in this world, other than Regina King? So.
Right? I was like, man, I wanted her to be. But, it's a lot of dynamic visual language here, which, you're known for. You're a genius at it. Goodfellas-esque freeze frames early on, and hear the characters talking over it, voiceover. And I also love that shot when he's at the art sculpting thing and you're spinning around with the smoke. And it's just great. But even in Moonlight, everything that's blue is signifying his, sexual awakening. Like he's got the blue backpack when they're playing Smear the You-Know-What in the beginning. He's got the blue hallways. He's got the blue... And it's because the book is in Moonlight, black boys look blue, right?
Exactly.
So take me into just your idea of I'm going to assign a symbolic color to this.
It's important because I think, it's not literature, it's cinema. So I think the visuals are very important. I think the sound is important too, just as important. And I think for me, it's not worth telling these stories if we don't create an immersive experience for the audience, As they say, walk a mile in the character's shoes. I kind of want almost, it's not virtual reality, you're not putting on a headset, but I do feel like the auditorium of a cinema is like a virtual reality headset in a certain way. The image is always in front of you and the sound is all around you. And so I'm always trying to find ways to really do things with the form, with the actual aesthetics that heighten the experience of the characters. And I think some of the things with color that we did in Moonlight, we did it in a softer way in this film. Myself and the DP, the costume designer, and the production designer, we would all get together and just drink wine over the course of pre-pro and, pass this color around, pass this image around, and eventually you start to see these things sort of pop up in everybody's department. And what's happening is we were all just getting inside this young woman's head and trying to use, everything at our disposal, from the clothes to the lenses to the quality of the light, to really reflect what it feels like to be her.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're getting to go home. So final question, but I have to say, I was there backstage covering the Oscars when all that mess went down. I almost felt bad for you. It was you're like, can I talk about my movie? Everyone wants to talk about the gaffe, but it was so crazy and historic.
I didn't want to say nothing in the moment.
Yeah,
man.
Exactly. But I don't want to dive into that because I'm already sick of the envelope stuff. But in terms of now that you've had a little perspective from it, Damien gets director, you get best picture. He just did First Man. You're doing this. It's just awesome watching you guys blossom. And I hate that people were trying to pit the movies against each other at the time. But now, do you see you guys as just the next wave? I think we have a new renaissance going on.
I think every year there's a new wave. You look at last year with Greta and Jordan. This year I think Yorgos is going to get his proper due. And he has. I think he's been nominated 2 years in a row or something like that. So, it all goes in cycles. The thing with Damien is we were both at Toronto, and the first thing I did at Toronto, which is where this film world premiered, I go into this suite. And I'm sitting ready to do this interview, and I look at the monitor, who's doing the interview before me, and it's Damien. and he came off from backstage, and we looked at each other, and we looked around because we knew that we went to give each other a hug, and everybody's phone was out taking all these photos. So, but in a way, it's kind of lovely because those films are very, very different, La La Land and Moonlight, and these films are different, First Man and Beale Street. But I think we both go about it the same way. And I think it's really cool that for whatever crazy reason, these two storytellers are somehow always linked. So
linked in history.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's Beale Street.
Thank you, bro.
It's a great movie.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.